there, my name is Kelly Dale with Off the Beaded Path. I have a physical bead store in Forest City, North Carolina. I've got a website called offthebeadedpathbeadstore.com. And I've been here on YouTube for about the last 10 or 11 years. I am so glad you joined me today because I'm going to teach you yet another way that you can do odd count peyote stitch. I was told about this in a different way back in November of last year. So I've come up with a really easy bracelet that we are going to do this week to prepare for next week's retro redo video for the month. The retro video is a beaded toggle, so we're going to make the bracelet this week, the toggle next week, and then I'm going to show you how to put those together. So this is really great because the project we're going to do today uses up A, B, C, D, E, 5 colors of Delica beads, and it only uses a little bit of each color. So this is a great stash buster for you. Besides those 5 colors of Delicas, what you're going to call A, B, C, D, and E, you also are going to need a size 12 beading needle as well as your favorite beading thread. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so the first thing you're going to want to do is go to my website, offthebeadedpathbeadstore.com, and grab this free pattern. As you can see, you are going to need your 5 colors of Delicas. I'm going to be using colors a little bit different today. I'm going to be using, instead of the 2294 for my A, I'm going to be using 1156. For my B, I'm going to be using 1152. For my C, I'm going to be using 31. D, I'm going to be using 1183. And then for my E here, I'm going to be using 1170. So in the pattern, you're going to get the bead chart and you're going to get the word chart. So if you follow the bead chart, you'll notice here that I am actually going to start row 1 here. So I'm going to be doing this far left chart, and I'm going to be picking up for row 1, B, B, D, E, A, C, D, E, A. And then this way I will work back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So we actually start here and go across if you are going to read the bead chart. If you are going to read the word chart, it's just simply following your words here. So I'm going to make it easy and I'm going to follow our word chart. I am not going to thread on a stop bead. I've got 2 yards of thread on my needle, no stop bead. And you'll see why in just a little while. So I'm going to thread on 2 B's, a D, E, A, C, D, E, A. So just like I've shown you before over and over, the number in parentheses is how many of that bead that you are going to pick up. The letter next to it is the letter bead that you're going to pick up. So you can see here, this is why I picked up 2 bead to start with and then 1 of each of the others. After this first row, you're only going to be picking up 1 bead of each of the colors as it tells you here in our graph. So like I told you, I am not going to put on any sort of stop bead, but I am going to bring the beads down and leave myself about a 6-inch tail. So I'm using the mini or the travel bead easy tray here. So it's about the length here of my metal little piece that I'm using. And if you want to know about that bead easy tray, I did a wonderful video just a couple of weeks ago showing this product. It's amazing. So now I'm going to go ahead and look here for row 3. I'm picking up an A, a D, an A, a B, and a C. So I'm not going to pick up all these beads like I did here in the first row. These will be picked up one at a time. So I pick up an A. I skip the last bead I added and go through the next bead. I'm working back towards my tail. But you can see here, I've got the tail thread kind of holding it in my hand for now. Now, when you do this, if the first 2 beads don't sit pretty like you need them to, you just go ahead and grab a hold and fix them. I say make them do what you want them to do. All right, so the next bead it tells me I'm going to do here is a D. So D is next, so you pick up a D. You skip the next bead here So I'm coming out of this one, I skip one, and I go through one. Pull it through. The next one is an A, so I pick up an A. I skip a bead and go through the next bead. Pull it through. Okay. The next one here on my pattern is a B, so I pick up a B. No, A, D, A, B, skip it and go through. Okay. And now you can see here that I still have one bead left to add for my row. It's a C there on the end, but I don't have one that I can skip and go through. So this is where we're gonna do our first little turnaround, and this turnaround is gonna be different from any other turnaround that we do on this project. So I pick up my C, which is the last bead on the row, and then I'm gonna take these two threads and I'm gonna tie these two threads together. Okay, so you want to be very careful when you tie these two threads together that you don't actually get any beads caught up into the knot. The knot should basically be here on the top side of your piece. So I'm going to do it one more time, being very careful not to loosen the knot up. Okay, so there we go, just like that. So you can see here, now I have my row, and I know that I'm working on this next row because there's my C that I just added. So now I'm going to go ahead and mark off row 3. All right, so now we are just going to work our regular peyote. We're working row 4. So for the row, I pick up a C, a B, a C, and an E. So before I move on, I'm going to come through the C that I added here. That was the last bead of my row. And I'm going to go ahead and pull this through. And now, just like my row 4, I'm going to pick up a C and go through the next bead sticking up, a B, and go through the next bead sticking up, C, and go through the next bead sticking up, and then the last one I'm going to put on is an E. So I pick up an E and I go through my last bead here on the end, so that now this is what I've got. So I'm going to mark off row 4. And now I'm on to row 5. So you'll notice your rows are going to rotate. One row you're going to be putting on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 beads. And the next row you're only going to be putting on 4 beads. That's because of this odd count peyote that we're doing. So for row 5, I'm going to pick up the A, the D, the B, the C, and a D. So A, I'm working back towards the tail. So A, and go through the first bead sticking up. D, go through the next bead sticking up. B, go through the next bead sticking up. C, and then remember, I still have one bead here on my row to add, but unlike even count peyote, I don't have a bead to skip and go through. So you can see here, I still have to pick up a D. So I'm going to pick up the D, and now this is where your new odd count way is going to come in. So the way that I've showed you, another way I showed you before, is where our thread will actually move up with every row because we loop around the thread. This time we are not going to be doing that. This thread is just going to kind of stay where it's at. And we are going to start now to work on this new odd count way. So when I do this, I come to the end and I come to the closest 2 beads here on the edge. And I'm going to take my needle and I wiggle it underneath the thread bridge between those 2 beads. It's almost like think a brick stitch, how you go under the bridge. Now, if you are a really tight stitcher like me, this bridge is going to be hard to get under. So you want to try to make sure you loosen this side up as you work, so that way it won't be so hard to go under. But we go under that little bridge there. Make sure our bead sits like it's supposed to, and then we come through the bead that we just added. All right, don't worry, I'm going to show it to you again so that you can see now I have that row complete. So I can go ahead and I can mark off my row 5. So I'm going to go ahead and work my row 6 and 7. I'm going to go down and come back so that I can show you how to add and do this little weave here again on our end. So our new turnaround for our odd count peyote. Okay, so as you can see, I've gone down and come back up, and I did row 6 and row 7. So now I have 1 E left to add here on this end. So I pick up the E, my last bead for the row, and then this is where I have to look here on the side, and you can see this was the original bridge I went under. So now I have to come under this next bridge. It's always the bridge closest to where your thread is at here. So I go under the bridge, pull it, and kind of make sure my bead is popped down in place, and then I come through this bead again, so that way I'm ready to do the next row. So that was row 6 and 7. So I'm going to go ahead and do 8 and 9 so I can show you this turnaround one more time. All right, so I've worked down and back. I'm here on row 9. The last bead I need to add is this A here. So I pick up my A. I take the needle. You see I'm coming out of this bead here. I tilt my beadwork over to the side, and you can see here I'm going to go under this next little thread bridge. I'm going to pull it through, tip the bead down where it needs to go, and then come back through that bead one more time, so that now I am ready to work the next row. So I hope that you understand now this new way that you can do your odd count peyote. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue to follow my pattern until I have the bracelet complete, so you can see what that's going to look like. So you can see here I've completed my bracelet, and this is the bracelet with the original colors that I used on the pattern itself. So a couple of things I've observed with this new technique of doing the odd count peyote. Number one is this one here that I have completed is done with the original technique that I've showed you several times that I learned from threadabead.com, where the tail moves up each row that you do, and we'll link it below so you can see how that is done. Now you'll notice on this one, this bracelet is curved. It doesn't have a massive curve, but it is slightly curved because this side is the side that I did the loop turnaround on. I'm a very tight stitcher, so you can see here the difference in the two. Also, I wanted you to kind of observe here, if I can get it. You're going to see a good bit of thread here along the edge of your piece, whereas doing it the normal way, you don't see that thread, but doing it the way that I showed you, you're going to see a good bit of thread. And you'll notice here on this one, this is the one with the other technique, and you see the same amount of thread on each side of this one. So that's another thing to kind of be aware of as you do this stitch, and choose which one you like the most. So I hope now that you are able to learn these three different techniques for odd count peyote. So the first technique is the original older technique, which is the figure 8 turnaround for odd count. The second technique is that technique that I've showed several times here on my channel that I originally learned from threadabead.com, where you take the tail thread and it moves up every row with you. And then this third technique is a loop under technique that you can choose from as well. So now you have three options to do your odd count peyote. I will strongly suggest that if you are a tight stitcher like I am, you are going to have to loosen up on the stitch a little bit so that it doesn't curve and you get a nice flat stitch. The other thing you're going to want to be really careful of is it's going to be really easy when you go under those threads to pierce the thread that's already there. So be very careful about that, because if you make a mistake and you try to pull it back out, if you pierce those little threads that are looped under, it's going to become a hot mess. So just be really, really careful with that. So I hope you went to my website and you got the free pattern. On the pattern itself, make sure to look, because as I have been testing this second version, I have been making notes of the lengths of the bracelet. So like if you get to row 103, that's 3.5 inches. If you get to row 117, that's 4 inches. So that way you'll kind of know how long it is as you go through the rows. So that is going to be listed on that pattern. Again, you can get the pattern for free on my website at offthebeadedpathbeadstore.com. Now, work on your bracelet this week and be sure to come back next week when we are going to do our retro redo for the month, and it's the beaded toggle. I did this beaded toggle several years ago, so I have updated the pattern, and I think you guys are really going to enjoy the video for next week and how we are going to attach the new beaded toggle to our new bracelet that we made today. So guys, I hope you have a wonderful week, and we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.